محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, جزاك الله خير for arranging this second workshop on parenting that is meant to be a bit more focused than last time. Last time we talked theory and some of the issues that we as parents might be going through. And this time we decided to go for questions, specific topics that you, the parents, have that you're dealing with, and we can add to them. Let me know. I'll go first through these lists that has been forwarded towards me, and we can discuss it. And if you have questions, you can, I would say in this case, as opposed to just lecturing, interject and just ask me as I'm going. So I think just take the mic, it's easier because the camera is a bit far. I can still reach, but just ask, take the mic and talk, and then I will respond, inshallah. If you want to add something, if you don't want to obviously share your name, so you want to send it as private, just do send it to me as private, then I'll check it towards the end as well. I'll take the actual questions that are sent private. Some people might not want to release their identity and say who they are and so on. So I will not, if you send me private, then I'm not reading your name. I'll just read the question itself and then address it, inshallah. Okay? All right. So obviously, parenting in the 21st century is a huge issue. And it's not necessarily because parents are not good. I want to reiterate this because a lot of parents are suffering. And a lot of parents are very worried and they blame themselves for the way their children behave. And we have to understand the whole issue. It's not like that necessarily. Yes, if a parent is not doing their job, and if a parent is not taking care of his family and their children, there's no education, there's no Islamic guidance, then definitely they are blameworthy. But if a parent is doing and trying, I mean, they're not going to be perfect. You have to understand that. No one is perfect. But if a parent is trying and doing their best, then you have to understand that the outcomes in the end are based on the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I've given you the example very clearly. The Prophet ﷺ himself, he loved Abu Talib so much. But Abu Talib did not follow Islam in the end. Till the end, he did not. As much as he loved the Prophet ﷺ, as much as the Prophet ﷺ tried so hard, but he couldn't. And he is Rasulullah. And Allah revealed the verse, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ. You cannot guide those who you love, but Allah guides whom He wills. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows in the way, in a sense that you do your best and Allah will do the rest. You do what you have to do. The outcomes are up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You prepare whatever it takes. You do your parenting, you do whatever it takes, but in the end, it is up to Allah. For whatever reason, it is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to basically guide or misguide. And we know Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh alayhi salam had problems with his son, right? The son of Nuh, he went astray. And he disobeyed his father, even in the sense that when he was on the, he saw the punishment coming. And his father is saying, let me help him. And he wouldn't do it, right? We have the case of Lut alayhi salam, his wife, right? His wife disobeyed him. And she was punished, she was destroyed with the people of Lut. So, understand, Ibrahim alayhi salam, his father, right? All these stories, these qasas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it as signs for us. Many of the parents that I deal with in counseling sessions, like today I had, something, mashallah, and yesterday, almost every day there's some cases that are coming, mashallah. And the parents are in general very good. I would say from the cases that I've dealt with, 95% of the parents are very good. They try their hardest. They do their best. They love their children. They take care of their children. 95%. However, sometimes their children might go one way or the other way. And they've done their best. They've done their best. So we need to understand, because what happens is shaitan plays with you as parents and makes you be desperate. What should I do? You start going left, you start going right. You don't know, you start doubting yourself. And what happens is husband and wife start fighting and start, it affects the marriage and start blaming each other. I'm dealing with one case where there's a case of apostasy right now. Apostasy and drug use. It's not even drug use, it's drug abuse. To the point that it leads to detox centers and suicidal thoughts. The person wants to jump from the balcony, stuff like that. And subhanAllah, the parents are amazing. Allah knows best, of course, but knowing them in the community and knowing the father and just seeing, and their culture, and just an amazing family. And subhanAllah, this boy ended up with the wrong family, with the wrong people, with the wrong friends, with the wrong people, the wrong crowd. And one mistake can, one straw that breaks the camel's back. But I see the suffering in the parents. And what happens is now their relationship is affected because the wife is blaming the husband and the husband doesn't know what to do. And of course, as a man, you're going to start questioning yourself and saying, like, what have I done? What have I done as a man? I feel like I failed. And subhanAllah, when an adult, a grown-up man breaks down in front of you crying, then it's just a big problem. It is a big problem. And Shaitan's going to play that card. So first and foremost, we have to understand, this is something that I tell my wife as well, is that if you take a decision in doing something for your kids, in scolding them, in reprimanding them, then have confidence. Don't doubt yourself. Don't show weakness in front. You might make mistake, but when you doubt yourself, when you start have psychological imbalance or psychological weakness, then it causes a lot of problems internally within the family. Why I'm saying this, why am I spending a bit of time on this? Because I want parents to be a bit stronger. I want husband and wife to be on the same plate, which is harder to do than say. A lot of times the two don't see things the same. A lot of times you have the mother sometimes being stricter, the father more lenient, or vice versa. And that doesn't work. People think bad cop, good cop. It doesn't work. That doesn't work. This bad cop, good cop is just a fallacy. It doesn't work like that. Okay, unless the two are really working together. But in general, it doesn't work. So has to be clear, confidence, don't doubt yourself. Mistakes will be done, but do not doubt yourself. Be very, very direct. Because it takes a toll on you. I can see the parents that I meet with, they are desperate. And I say, what's wrong? Like, what's happening? And when you analyze the situation, you find that actually, subhanAllah, there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're fighting against each other and it's breaking down the family. And instead of redirecting that energy towards the case itself and dealing with the child, they're wasting a lot of energy and it's taking them down on each other and fighting with each other and blaming, because that's what happens, right? The blame game will start. It's your fault. Like there's a case that I'm dealing with right now. Sorry. There's a case that I'm dealing with right now where the child was born with a problem in the eyes, in the muscles of the eyes. So he cannot open his eyes properly. Okay? And the couple is on the verge of divorce right now. Actually, they are divorced. They divorced just last week. I was handling that case. And because the wife was blaming the husband that it's his fault that the child is born like that he's a weak man or something like that. So imagine if the wife says something like that to the husband. What do you think will happen? With time, of course, it will only be divorce when someone keeps insulting. How do you understand the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives and He takes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives and He takes. So how can a wife blame a husband that the child was born with problems in the muscles around the eyes that, he cannot open his eyes? So sadly, they divorced, and the woman is pregnant, right? And the woman is pregnant now, and they hate each other. Subhanallah, and even when I had a sit down with them, I mean, there's no respect. And Shaitan is very smart. And I told him very clearly, the Shaitan is playing with you. Instead of both of you uniting and using the energy to solve the problem, to go to the doctor, to make dua, to try to find the solution, they're fighting with each other. And most of their energy goes on this, to the point that, I'm just telling you because we take lessons from this. We find connections. We understand life better. To the point that, like they're hurting each other. The wife is calling the police on the husband, lying, and the husband is losing his temper, and violence. So bottom line is, use your energy to unite as a family. And if you cannot, if it's toxic, if it's destroying, sometimes it's better, as Allah says, فَإِمْسَاكُ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَالتَّصْرِيحُ بِالْإِحْسَانِ. Sometimes it's better for two people to just kind of fix things in a different way, as opposed to continue in a very toxic environment. And I think we've all been through it, but people stay in toxic circles for long, and they lose their iman, they lose their adab, they lose their children because it affects the children. And I have a lot of cases like that, experience like that, where it's just hard. And no one is spared from this. In the 21st century, brothers and sisters, there are so many issues. Why? Is it because parents are bad? It's not because parents are bad. Is it because the children are just bad by themselves? No. It's because we forget the main element of this problem. I don't know why. I feel that because of technology and because we're so reliant on technology, we sometimes forget the main element in this problem. What is it? Can someone tell me what is the one element that we forget in all these things? We can blame this, we can blame that, we can fire this, but there's one thing we forget. We blame ourselves, we blame each other, we blame and fight, and we say parents are bad, children are bad, I don't understand why. What is the one element? To blame for it. We don't know, not all. Of course, we forget Allah, right? So Allah, He says that we forgot Allah, and Allah made us forget ourselves. But there's someone we forget. Yes, Shaitan. Shaitan is the one we forget. Literally. And Shaitan, see, again, it's so weird. 21st century, when you talk about Shaitan, you're thinking like, right? Shaitan. People are like, this is like stories. Asatirul awwalin. People don't tend to understand because it's from the unseen, it's from the ghaib. I could just imagine if al-ghaib sitra would be lifted and you'll be able to see the al-ghaib. And that's why the Prophet said it's so scary. It's a mercy that Allah did not allow us to see. And the Prophet was allowed to see sometimes the angels, and was allowed to see sometimes the jinn and the devils. We know that. Some of the prophets, Sulaiman, Dawood, and so on. But imagine if we were able to see, right? But because we don't see it, it's a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we sometimes forget this key element in the equation, Shaitan. And Shaitan, what is he doing? He whispers and he tries to cause problems where? Where are most of the problems that Shaitan tries to hit? Can someone tell me? Yeah, exactly. In marriage, in family, right? And that's why we know from the hadith where the different shayateen come to the main shaitan, to the iblis, and they say, I did this, I did that, blah, blah, blah. And then there's one who says, I caused this divorce between husband and wife. He says, come sit next to me. Come, you're the man, right? Because once the family is weak, right? That's the ummah is weak. The building block of the family, if it's weak, if a husband doesn't know his position and responsibility and rights, if a wife doesn't know her position, responsibility and rights, based on Islam, if the family is weak, the ummah is weak, right? So remember, brothers and sisters, in all our problems that we have, and trust me, I'm lecturing you, but I'm also part of the whole thing. You know, as a parent, I have 4 kids. I know how difficult it is. Don't think because I'm lecturing you, I'm like, okay, I am perfect. No, and I always use the example of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ talked to us about children, talked to us about marriage. Allah revealed. Yet he himself, ﷺ, had marriage problems and problems in family and so on. Right? This is clear. So we are all in this together trying to solve this. Some of us have more experience than others. Some of us try to do certain different techniques, but we want to always look at the guidance of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So don't forget shaitan out of the equation. Always, subhanAllah, small practice, brothers and sisters, when you enter the house, استعيذ من الشيطان. Say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. This is something that we do not know a lot of times. And we don't do. So shaitan enters with us before we eat. We're going to forget to say Bismillah. Shaitan will eat with us. Sorry, but being intimate with one's wife and husband, right? Husband and wife, wife and husband. Sometimes we forget to say the dua. There's a dua before being intimate that we say. Allahumma jana shaitan wa jana shaitan ma razaqtana. Right? And it says to protect us from shaitan and protect from shaitan what you will give us in rizq, as in if there's children. Right? And you put your hand on the forehead of your wife. That's what the man should do. Sometimes men don't do that. And it's a big mistake, guys. It's a big mistake in conceiving the child. It's a big mistake in intimacy. Because this is the Sunnah of the Prophet. He taught us to do this. So seek refuge from shaitan when walking in the house. Seek refuge from shaitan before eating. Seek refuge from shaitan before having intimacy with your wife. Okay? And always seek refuge from shaitan, because he is the one who knows exactly how to hit. He has got the experience to cause us. If he cannot lead us astray, he will cause us to doubt ourselves. If we cannot doubt ourselves, he will cause us to fight with our husband and wife. If we cannot cause to fight with our husband and wife, he will cause our children to go astray. If he cannot let them go astray, he'll cause us to fight with our children until one of us goes astray. There's always going to be something, and he's at it every day. He's got soldiers, not one. You have to understand. Iblis is one. There's one Iblis, no doubt. That's his name. Shaitan is a category of bad jinn. Okay, so this is a category, a subcategory of jinn, which is evil, is shaitan. So shayateen. But there's one Iblis, main boss, right? Shayateen are many. There are many names. And many different ones. So they have soldiers, they have children, they have, they're a lot in number. And they fight and they attack together, they work together, they're united in this. And what is the purpose, guys? As he says in the Quran, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, that it is to misguide. He will wait for them on a straight path, to misguide them. He will attack them from the left, from the right, from the front, from the back, from every side. He will attack them to misguide them, to lead them into Jahannam, to be there with him. So don't forget this. Talk to your children, talk to your wife, talk to your husband when there are problems in the family, and try to unite on this issue. Sadly, it's, again, harder done than said. And yes, there's shayateen amongst the men as well. And of course, you see people, if you find this is something that you can see, because you find a lot of times people getting involved in family matters and causing problems within the family, divorce and fights and all these things, right? It happens a lot. Min al-jinnah tiwannas. They are jinn, they are humans, they are devils. And subhanAllah, it's tough, right? It's tough to sit down. It's tough to talk to each other. It's tough to convey those messages to your spouse and to unite. Shaitan is already, sitting on us, playing with us. and wasting our energy on each other. It's your fault. He's your son, right? You know, don't you hate when someone says that? Or your son, like husband says to the wife, you know, get your son. You know, I mean, what? He's not your son, right? Get your daughter. Let's go. Tell your daughter to come, right? It's very tough. And no doubt, if you are the only one in the marriage, meaning, I mean, in the family, you're a single mother, then it becomes even tougher. Because now you have to be father and mother, husband and wife, right? So it's so tough. And not to mention that they're also, by the way, single fathers. They're also single fathers who have children, and they have to be the mothers, which is a lot, very tough, right, on both sides. So it gets tough. Type. So I wanted to have this introduction because please do not lose hope when there are problems in the family. And also, so you know, this is a very important point to give as advice to others who are having issues. Take these points that we're talking about in this series and try to convey it to others as well. Because I'm sure people confide in you, people talk, your friends, and so on. Everyone has some issue. Well, I don't think there's any family that is spared from having problems. And another mistake that Shaitan plays with us, and I'll end with this part. Bismillah. By the way, because of the reflection in the phone, front-facing camera, it might look like I'm drinking with the left hand, but it's right hand, yeah? Please, because someone pointed out last time, you're like, why is so Sheikh drinking with the left hand and drinking with the right hand, yeah? So, it's just because it's like has the mirror effect, right? The left becomes right. Last point on this this issue. I hope I don't forget it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. SubhanAllah, I think I forgot it. I think I forgot it. Anyway, let's move on to the points now, one by one, and try to address what we can do. Preemptive measures are very important, and that takes us back to when the child is born and is in infancy, right? So for you who are future parents, don't feel that, you know, it's like lost hope. No, you know, it's good to start early in terms of applying certain rules and certain actions so you can train your children to make sure that they grow up properly. It's quite difficult. For example, my wife and I agreed that there'll be only Islamic cartoons that the girls will be watching, and my son. And we stuck to it for quite some time. And then it just became so tough. We took them to the grandparents, and the grandparents and the aunt, and they, you know, come on, come on. They start showing them. You turn around for 1 second, boom. Okay? Grandparents are showing them Disney. And you're like, and so now the grandparents are very religious. And then Disney is very addictive. Okay, it's very, very easy to get hooked on. So then the kids will love it. And then they'll ask for it, and there'll be problems. And then they go back to the grandparents again. They start loving the grandparents. Oh, you're not like grandma and grandpa. You're being so strict. All these things, right? So it becomes tough. It becomes quite tough a lot of times. Then there's other cartoons and other issues, right? So it's difficult. And at some point, you just kind of like, it's not that you let loose, but it's like you're against a tsunami, right? So now sometimes the kids are watching different cartoons. They're not bad, you know, but they're not like the Islamic cartoons. And sadly, because we don't have so many Islamic cartoons, and I always encourage my students that if you guys want to be these YouTubers and class, you know, designers, and so I said, do Islamic stuff. Start offering alternatives, because when we say to someone it's haram to do this, haram to do that, and people say, okay, then what should I do? And then you're like, there's nothing, you know, no sound. You don't say anything. You don't have anything to say. It's just silence, right? Because there's nothing to tell them. Now, you don't have to make an alternative for everything, right? But in general, People need to have some kind of form of entertainment. And if we're going to tell them that this is haram, this is haram, this is haram, this is haram, okay, then what should we do? Right? You know, someone there's a complaint that one son is just sitting in the house a lot and not doing, right? So then basically I was talking, I said, well, you know, they should go outside. And then the son objected, said, outside where? Like, there's no good place to go outside, right? Sometimes we don't have good alternatives to go outside, right? We don't have good alternatives to go outside. There's no places. Go to the mall. What you gonna do in the mall? There's no so much you can do in the mall. Someone wants to say something? Can we mute the mic? Yeah, thank you. So, you know, there's got to be alternatives, guys. There's got to be alternatives, right? There's got to be alternatives. So we need to work on this somehow as an ummah, provide alternative solutions to the needs of our children, okay? To the needs of our children. We have to. That is part of the preemptive mission. And we have to, remember we talked last time, we have to start acting like a ummah, like a village, like a community, where we support each other. Just because my children might not be perfect doesn't mean I cannot contribute towards someone else's children being better. You should focus on your children, of course, but maybe part of my work and what I do, I can help others as well. And Nuh alayhi salam was doing that, right? He's a prophet, and he couldn't save his own child. He couldn't save his own son, but he saved others, right, from his family. And animals, right? I mean, he even said he saved animals, subhanAllah, right? Which is great, right? I mean, it shows the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But imagine, so Allah, that Nuh saved animals, but he couldn't save his own son, right? So let's try to understand that, right? All right, so let's go with the first issue. And this is quite a strong, and I would like to also give me some context as well to what you've expressed, if anyone wants to say anything. But the point number one that's been raised is mean girls and mental bullying. And here, correct me if I'm wrong, this is, you know, daughter who's now grown up a bit, a teenager most likely, who's been exposed to different things, and now they develop what's called an attitude, right? They have an attitude, right? So you say, dear, can you please help me with this? Do it yourself. No, I don't think so. Stuff like that. And they start being mean. And by the way, I mean, girls in Malay cultures, what I've seen so far from my students, are quite nice in general. If you go to America or Canada to see if you compare 14-year-old Canadian, Australian, or American girl to your 14, 15-year-old here in Malay, I mean, there's a big difference. There's still cases here of problem, but there, the attitude of a 14, 15-year-old girl is really problematic. And the attitude is really like, you know, talk to the hand, and it's all about privacy and leave me alone, and I don't want to talk, you know, all kinds of, you know, type of behavior. And what happens is that they start mentally abusing the parents, specifically the mother. Okay, the father and the mother, because there's a competition here. And this competition is a competition between, it's a gender competition. Okay, it is a gender competition. The mother and daughter are so close to each other, but it ends up being some kind of a competition that is not even known. It's like a Cold War. And sometimes when the mother is very nice, is from an, you know, old school, so the daughter will start pushing the boundaries and the limits on the mother, you know, using bad language, in many cases even physical abuse, okay, hitting, and so on. So a lot of times parents say, you know, hitting is not the solution. They never do it as the kids grow up, and then it ends up, I'm not saying that, okay, beat your children, right? We discussed this last time. But what happens is that it reverses. Now the daughter or the son is beating the parents. And I've seen these cases before. And it's so sad. It's so sad. And the constant mental bullying using bad words. You're not good. You're a bad mother. Sometimes if there's divorce, right, the daughter will say, yeah, father left you because look how you are. And the mother starts believing sometimes these kind of discourse. And these girls, sometimes they get very, very good at what they do because of the media that they watch, the movies, right? And they're in a different social circle and different influence, different knowledge. And they're very good at the bullying that they do, right? They become expert bullies. They might be bullying others at school, but they become very, very good. They're very confident. And sometimes the mother or the father being nicer, old school, right? They kind of take it and they don't have the courage to put the child in place. And maybe it's too late at 15, 16 to do something like that. Understand? And if they do that, then it ends up being a legal case and police and problems like that. But it needs to be addressed. This, first of all, preemptive measures. The relationship between the daughter and the mother, the father and the mother, we'll talk about that, has to be very close. But at the same time, it has to be some limits where the daughter understands what are the limits and that there's rules and regulations in the house. If there's never been rules and regulations in the house and the daughter just, turns to be 14, 15, starts changing, of course, her body, her behavior, and she goes outside, and then the father says, no, now he finally wakes up and says, oh my God, she's not a little girl anymore, she's a woman. And now I'm telling her, you cannot go outside. Wait a second, Dad, you've been letting me to do whatever I want my whole life, and now you decided to put some kind of rules and regulations? And the father will say, yes, because this is my house and you do what I say, and there's no rationale in the explanation sometimes, so it leads to conflict. And the more you push, it's like two adults fighting now, right? 15-year-old, 14-year-old girl is 13-year-old. It's not a little child anymore. This is now like two adults pretty much fighting, everyone with their own personality, with their own ego, with their own interest, and it becomes a mess, right? So with these type of girls, specifically the question mentions mean girls. With girls, the father and the mother have to befriend them and step in and have frank discussions. This is part of damage control. You have to sit down, calm things down. Trust me, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, you're not going to succeed in anything by beating them or by threatening them or by screaming at them. No, you will not. It's not going to happen. And even if you scare them and if you scream at them, they might be docile or just kind of submit for a little bit of time, but then they might find avenues to leave the house, to get support from friends, to report and say there's abuse. In America, that's what happens, right? If a father screams at his daughter or mother, the daughter will call the police and say, I'm feeling threatened and they want to hurt me, or they're talking like this to me, and the police will come and there'll be a case, issues, and problems. So sit down face to face. Say, look, my daughter. And I don't think both parents with the one girl is the best idea. I think it should be different because they're different approaches. You can try it, but if you feel that it doesn't work, you see it doesn't work, do one by one. And see which one the girl tends to be better. Sometimes daughters are more comfortable in dealing with fathers. Okay? In my case, my older daughter is more comfortable to deal with me as a man. She feels that I understand her better. Now, I don't know, because usually they say that women understand each other better, right? And that, I think, goes to show that it's not like that. So she feels much more comfortable with me to confide in me, to tell me her problems, to open up to me. And so you have to figure it out by trial and error as to which one would work the best. And start an open-ended relationship where you talk and you say, look, my daughter, like, we're having some issues. Can we just talk about this? Can we just, understand what's going on? What do you feel? Listen. Because now it's not anymore tarbiyah in that case that we did it when they're little. Now it's damage control. There's problems. There is bullying. There is attitude issues. There's swearing. There is violence even. And you need to deal with it. So you sit down, look, I'm trying to understand. Can you please tell me how you feel? Tell me how you feel is part of our, remember when we did the advice, the advice sketch, that we say, look, I know how you feel because I felt before, but this is what I learned, right? You want to learn to listen. You want to learn to understand what is the actual problem. Because you might think, oh yeah, it's because they're teenagers, because they're having hormones issues, but there might be another issue behind it. And if you don't listen, you're never going to solve the problem. And the child will never feel like, okay, my father or my mother is actually taking me seriously. So sit them down and ask them, what is going on? What's the problem? Please tell me. How do you feel? Am I making you upset? What have I done wrong? Please, I'm trying to understand. Right? So when you have that type of attitude with them and you try to understand them, they might not open up from the first session. They might not open up from the second session, but slowly they will open up. And they will tell you what's going on. And even if it's through frustration, like they'll say, I don't like this, and one thing you want to do, one technique that you want to use is don't retaliate. Don't fight back with words. They'll tell you, nothing is good in this house. Don't be like, oh, how dare you say that? I'm good. And no, just listen. Listen. They might say things that will hurt you, but listen. It is very important to earn their trust. And you're not going to earn their trust unless you listen. So block some time out where you spend only with them, either the father or the mother, can see which one works the best, and then earn their trust and earn the ability to speak to them and let them express their problems. Tell them. Don't see the Prophet. Let's take an example. The Prophet ﷺ, when people would go to him, even with admitting that zina was committed, did he punish them right away? No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Unless there was a clear, someone clearly confessed, and it's like there's the hukum has been established. There's the witnesses or something where it became public. But if it's just someone coming to him and talking to him, right? He did not commit or inflict the punishment. Like Al-Ghamidiyah, that woman who committed sin, right? The Prophet gave her so many chances to just go away because he understood that she made a mistake. That young boy who wanted to take permission to commit sin, right? He didn't just like smack him or something. Like, imagine your son comes to you today and says, Father, I want to mess around with this girl, right? What you would say. So a lot of times our children will come and say like, I like this girl, I like this boy, and right away we react in such a way, not understanding where they're coming from, not understanding these are natural feelings, and that we need to talk to them about as to how to deal with it. So the Prophet ﷺ, how did he respond to that boy? Did he say haram? He did actually not say haram. If you analyze that hadith, it is in itself a thesis, subhanAllah. In itself, that hadith can be a thesis, a case study by itself, because he said, so would you allow that for your mother, for your sister, for your aunt, you start listing the female relatives that he has. And in education, this is a reverse psychology type of technique where instead of giving the answer or chastising, you make the person realize that this is not correct. They make the realization as opposed to you making it for them, which has a deeper impact on their opinion and on their, the way they're gonna comprehend the problem. So indeed, that boy, I can guarantee you that boy never thought about zina again because he really understood the implications of what he is saying, that he is wrong. He wasn't told he is wrong, he was made to understand that he was wrong, which makes a huge difference. And that is why, that is counseling 101 right there. That is the first step in counseling. And that's what we're trying to learn, right? That is the first step, not only in parenting, but in counseling, that you do not react. As hard or as disturbing as the information might be, you cannot show a reaction of being bothered like that, because it shows weakness, it shows that you cannot control yourself, and you basically lose the person in front of you. They will not listen to you anymore because they see a weakness in you. Why should I talk to this person? I mean, they cannot seem to handle themselves. And sometimes it's not just about let me to commit zina, but sometimes about I committed zina, I am pregnant, I have been raped, I want to commit suicide, I'm an atheist now, I'm addicted to drugs, I'm addicted to porn, I'm gay, I'm lesbian. You know, people have said these things in front of me. And imagine if I would be like, oh my God, right? Imagine if I would have reacted like that. I would have never been able to help them. I would have never been able to help them. Like I was dealing with a case of lesbianism. And the girl was very young. And, you know, the way the father and the mother reacted was very bad. And it was like threatening, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And the way I asked her, I wanted to say, okay, look, I'm trying to understand what's going on. I'm trying to understand. Please tell me how you feel. Why you feel like that? Well, because, you know, I like her. I said, do you really like? I said, do you like boys though? Oh yeah, I like boys too. So I said, so then you're not lesbian. You're, you know, bisexual. Well, kind of. I don't know. Well, I dig. In the end, it's not. It's just the, you know, this today. It's like supposedly cool to be like that. You know, oh my God, they're just friends and they don't even know. Actually, they're just, it's not even to that level. But look at the reaction of the parents and look at my reaction. And in the end, one of the girls said to me, yeah, this is totally bad. I don't want to do this anymore. This doesn't feel good, right? Because a lot of times the youth don't understand what they're doing actually, don't realize the extent to what they're going into. Just they saw something on TV, they thought it's cool, it looks cool, and then they just go with it. But the reaction is what kind of drove the outcome of this session. My reaction was, so tell me a bit more about this. How do you feel? Give me more. I want to understand you more. This is my, Gabriel Romaani technique? No. It's the Prophet ﷺ technique. Doesn't react, doesn't, you know. Yes, in certain cases, certain hadith, there is a reaction because it is something clear, a clear violation of the rules of Allah openly, and people know, so this reaction has to be strong. But in cases, personal cases, intimate cases, cases that are close, that reaction will not work well. And that was a great example. So speak, remember the first thing we said, you can either judge or learn. What's the difference? Judging, you might misjudge. And definitely when you start judging, you point the finger, not just that you point, 3 fingers pointing back at you, we talked about this, but once you point the finger and you judge, that person will stop now because they have to defend themselves. It's a natural reaction. They will defend themselves. They're not going to take from you. But as soon as you say, no, I want to learn. So tell me more about this. Okay, so your daughter comes and says, I'm upset, they start swearing, and you start, look, daughter, honey, I want to talk to you. Let's make the scenario. She's talking bad, she's swearing, she's constantly bullying, go do this, do that, talking to the little siblings, brother and sister in a very bad way, not respecting, not doing anything in the house. And you sit her down one day, find the time. Not just like a chair, necessarily, not like face-to-face, let's go, we have to have a talk. Go shopping. Say, daughter, let's go shopping. I want to buy some new clothes. Go shopping. Find the right moment. It's very important. You're driving in the car, maybe you guys start a conversation. Something when it's the right time, when the person becomes the most receptive. It might be over ice cream. It might be that you guys are shopping. It might be that she's asking you something. Sometimes what I found is that spending more time and just being there, it will allow them to open up, which is much easier because I don't have to break the ice. It's so difficult sometimes to break the ice, isn't it? So the more I spend time, the more I do certain things with them, then they will open up and say, look, I need to say something. Like, look, I have something. And I say, so tell me, right? But if I don't find that opportunity, then I will look for another time when, you know, the girl, for example, she's in a good position, eating ice cream, shopping, something. I say, look, you know, let's say her name is Amina. Look, Amina, I've been meaning to talk to you about this, you know. You've become now, try to start positively. You become now a woman. You know, you are, mashallah, so beautiful. You are so smart, you know. But I want to tell you that there's some issues that I want to discuss with you. And I want to just understand, you know, why you get upset so easy. Am I doing something wrong? There's a forward front and an inside front. Inside, you're strong, solid. You know what you have to do. You don't doubt yourself. On the outside, you show a bit of, not weakness, but a different approach, a weaker approach. Because you don't want to come out strong, because strong will collapse and clash and collapse. So inside, you're convinced of your technique, you've planned it out, you know what you want to do. No doubt about yourself, you're not going to be weak, you're not going to second guess yourself, you're not going to let shaitan play with your mind that you've done something wrong. It's all about her now. So, you know, I just want to understand, like, why sometimes you lose your temper. Have I done something wrong? Please let me know, because I want to change if I've done something wrong. I love you so much. Keep mentioning the words, I love you. Keep mentioning the words, I care for you. Keep mentioning praises that you are so like this, you're so like that. These little, you know, love, you know, injections are very important. They're praises. They're key praises that help ease up things. And it might be that the first time they say, I don't want to talk about this. Okay, no problem. Try a little bit. Back up. Back up. Try again in another day, 2 days, another opportunity, right? Have it like a plan. Don't let things just haphazardly, you know, move and then, you know, you don't plan it. Plan it out. Have that discussion. And, you know, you might have to do it tomorrow, day after tomorrow again, and so on. That at one point, she will tell you, I don't like this about you, mom, or dad is saying this, or my, you know, siblings are annoying, or, well, actually, no, I have a boyfriend and I didn't want to tell you, and I'm upset with him, and obviously you love it. You have a boyfriend. I'm going to tell your dad. I'm going to, oh my God, hello, honey, she's got a boyfriend. You know, no, it's not. It's damage control. Oh, okay. So let me understand. So you think this is good? I mean, you know that this is not good. You know this is not going to take a good, you know. And slowly, you try to understand her and to convince her that she needs to take a course of action that is more Islamic, that the cause of her problems, of her anxiety, of her issues, because a lot of times you see, these girls are not happy. That's why they're bullying. They're redirecting their energy because they cannot, maybe someone that they're involved with, or there's an issue, they are not able to solve it. So now what they do is they take it out on the next person that's next to them, which is the person that spends the most time with them, siblings, parents, and so on, right? So again, the technique is to make them realize that they're doing something that is not correct, right? So usually you'll say like, look, I see that you're not happy. Have you ever wondered that maybe because of what you're doing, because you know that this is not halal, right? I like to say it that way. Maybe that's why you're not happy. You know, there's no barakah. You know, look at you. You're not solving the issue, right? I want to help you. And usually positive outcomes come out of such a talk. Positive outcomes. The person will be like, yeah, I know that I'm not doing well. Like a lot of the case study with, usually the person will say, I know that it's not good. As I just told you about with this 2 girls, you know, the case with with the two girls. In the end, the girl said, I know this is not right. I feel it. It's not good. I don't like it. I want to stop. They haven't done anything actually, but they're just saying that they're girlfriends and that they like each other, love each other. They want to be together and they want to adopt a child and get married and stuff like that. And then I just asked them a few questions. And then it kind of like they realized that like, yeah, makes sense, like, and one of them said, can I talk to you alone? And I talked to her alone and she said like, I want out. I don't want this. This is not allowed. It's not good. And, I don't like it. And, it was great because it happened within the second session and it worked hard. It worked okay, So, but again, they have to come to the realization themselves. It's better. It is better, okay, for them. And then they will change themselves as opposed to you trying to force the change on them. Right? So this is with the issue of mean girls, and there's also mean boys. The difference between boys and girls, brothers and sisters, is that sometimes we're very easy on boys and much harder on girls, and it's not fair. And we allow boys to get away with much more. Okay, we allow boys to get away with much more. That is because, for example, if a boy does something wrong, he's not going to carry a baby in his womb for 9 months, right? And I have a case now where the Malay girl committed zina 3 times, more than 3 times, but 3 pregnancies out of zina, 1 before the age of 18. And it's and the guys are just walking loose, and the whole problem comes on her because she's the one with the kids. The guys, sorry, it was hit and run kind of thing, and they're nowhere to be found. And sadly, to the point where the mother of the daughter adopted one of the children, one of the girls, because the girl she already had an agreement with an Indian family that they just take the child for 10,000 ringgit. So sad. So the woman stepped in, the grandmother, and now she has to let the daughter know. The daughter's grown up a bit, and she has to let her know that actually your mom is the one that you call sister. Which is a tough case. We're trying to see how, when, what's the right time, and so on. But subhanAllah, you see that we are, the girls do suffer a lot more. The girls do carry the burden a lot more, and that's not good. It's not fair. We do let men get off much easier. Boys get off with a lot more things, and a lot of them do have this anger problem within the family. A lot of them do use psychological manipulations, bullying, because they're stronger, they're louder, they get their way. Okay, I want to go outside. No, son, not tonight. I want to go outside, And then like, okay, just leave me alone, And they threaten, and sometimes because they're stronger, obviously, once they grow 12, 13, 14, 15, there's quite a lot of cases of abuse where they're abusing their elder parents. And subhanAllah, in some cases, even sexual abuse. And this is so tough, to deal with. And there's so much I can say about that. But the problem is, usually when there's sexual abuse, it is because that child has been involved in certain events, be it through friends, be it to what they've seen. And because of their strength right now and their dominance over their parents, and their weakness in the parents, they might be elder, they might be, weak. Sometimes that allows them to have sexual abuse. A lot of, like, there was a case that that was dealt with where there was a hafiz of the Quran in the UK, and he was a good kid, but he got involved in the wrong crowd and he started drinking, and he was so drunk that he went home and literally he raped his mother. And when he woke up, he was in jail, and basically he didn't know what happened. He didn't even realize what happened till the police told him that you're basically on charges of rape. Like he raped his own mother. SubhanAllah. So, people have to be very careful. People have to be very careful um, when it comes to sexual promiscuity, which is going to take me to the second point. A lot of times it happens because of what the kids see or do. And that kind of pushes on to their behavior and starts adapting or changing their sexuality and their sexual behavior. And that is why an indication of abuse is that little children at the ages of 7, 8, 9 start touching themselves, okay, masturbation and so on. And usually that's an indication that the child, someone either touched them or they've seen something. Almost in all cases, it's the same issue. So parents have to be very vigilant because that one case, one instant can change their sexuality and the way they will behave later on, and it will affect them their whole life. And abuse is usually done by people who are very close to us, family members, who we trust, neighbors, and so on. And it can take just a couple of seconds and it can damage the child for life. Okay? So, be very vigilant. Be always on guard. Be very careful. That doesn't mean you have to become crazy, but be very careful in looking for these signs and understanding, these kind of things, because it changes your whole life. It damages the family. It damages so many things. Today, even if one of the reasons that a lot of kids get involved into sexual problems and promiscuity is because of pornography. And I think I mentioned this before. Okay, pornography is very, very easily available. Kids who have their own phone, they'll be exposed to certain things. Click here, click here, click here, and it will lead to something wrong. Kids share pornography in the schools. Okay, there is a tendency. I've done inspections. In the UAE, you're allowed to take phones from students. It's called taftish. You can go. I'm not sure how's the rule here. I have done some inspections here as well, where I just kind of take their phone. But in the UAE, you are allowed as a school to confiscate the phones of students. So at any given time, I would have 20 to 30 phones in my office, as a principal. And sometimes we would open them up, just ask the students to open up if we would feel that there's a problem or someone's been reported that there's, sexual content being shared. So they will be sharing these kind of things to WhatsApp, different links and all that. SubhanAllah, the parents don't even know. That's the funniest thing is a lot of parents are so oblivious to these things. They think their kids are like protected, or some kids are homeschooling, and sometimes they leave them at home in front of the screen for 8 hours to 10 hours doing homeschooling online. And they're going and they think, yeah, I'm protecting my child because I'm not sending him to school. And their children are exposed to the screen for 10 hours. And we've actually caught students where they're not paying attention. They're watching videos. They're doing all kinds of stuff because the school is boring, to stay there for 8 hours a day in front of the screen. So don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by this. Please always be very, very careful of these things because, as I said, it does change the way they look at things, their sexuality, and it will show in their behavior. It will show. So usually what young children do, students, they'll start rubbing against each other, boys against boys, usually because, guys hang around with each other, girls hang around with each other. There's a lot of touching, a lot of hugging. Sometimes girls get away with this a bit more because girls are a bit more touchy-feely, right? But you have to be very careful. For me, as a principal, I do not allow girls to touch themselves like that or to touch each other. It's sad because a lot of people think that the culture that girls do that anyway. They're so, they support each other, they hug each other. It's not manly to do it, but it's womanly. So I don't allow that. I don't allow that. I don't allow girls to hold hands and smack each other. SubhanAllah, it happens so much. Girls go with each other to the bathroom. Even I don't allow that. Okay, and they say, "What's wrong? We're not doing anything wrong." No, I don't allow it. Okay, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. This is policy. Okay, this is my rules, and please respect that. Guys, have anything to talk about it? Talk outside of the bathroom. Why you have to go to the bathroom together? Why you have to hug each other from the back? Why you have to hold each other's hands all the time? Why you have to always touch each other and stuff like that? I don't know. And the boys, same thing. Oh, Sheikh, we're just playing. No, I don't want to see this. I had a very tough talk with two students, before the lockdown, because I've seen them and they're doing it in the masjid. And I said, both of you in my office, I have a very tough talk with them. And they, were like scared. And I said, look, I'm not going to tolerate this garbage. But we're playing. I don't want to see this type of play, right? In this case, I become very, very strict, okay? Because this is not like them actually doing something. They're just messing about, right? So I'm not trying to contradict myself here. And they understood. They understood exactly. If it's a reported case of homosexuality where there's actual, then I'll handle it in a different way, okay? When I know the guys are just messing around, just playing around, then I respond in a very, very different way with these cases, right? When people are just playing and joking and whatnot, right? Because it's not a joke and it's not a play. They should make, kind of, fun of it, and So, but again, I remember what I wanted to say. Media has such a huge influence on the 21st century generation, which we call the millennials, right? Most of us were born in the previous millennium, right? And alhamdulillah, we had a whole different upbringing. Yes, we are still being influenced by what's going around, but during the formative stages, we were trained and conditioned in a different way. For these guys now, they are quite confused, and there's so much out there to mislead them and misguide them. And because they're seeing so much and they're interacting with media so much, every piece of information that is inputted into their computer is programming them. You have to understand that, please, because you need to understand where your children are and how they feel. Sometimes you ask yourself, like, I don't understand why he's acting like this. Well, it might be that he was just watching too many violent movies. I don't understand why how he committed zina and his sexual promiscuity is, because he grew up watching porn, or she grew up watching porn. And the question specifically here mentioned girls. And you have to understand that even girls right now, the numbers are slowly pushing up in girls who are exposed to sexual content, because again, they have more access now. So girls are also watching pornography. Girls are also exposed to this. And it leads to sexual promiscuity. And one mistake can then become a slippery slope. Now, if someone has fallen into sin, into zina, into these relationships, sexual promiscuity, in the case of the girl that the case that I was dealing with that came to me, subhanAllah, again, it's a mistake. You cannot shun someone away just because of one mistake, right? As Al-Ghamidiyya, the Prophet said, did not blame her, and even when someone, the Sahaba, wanted to curse her, he says, do not curse her, for her repentance could cover all people of Medina, right? So we have to understand that it's a sin, but it's not like something that's unforgivable. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always gives a second chance, third, fourth, fifth. So we have to handle it like that. Okay, don't panic, don't go crazy, don't start making huge problems. But it is an issue. Alhamdulillah, there's no pregnancy, you just find out that she's sexually active. There's a few things that have to be done. Number one, of course, discussion to understand why. And a lot of times, because this girl is looking for attention, love, and care, it's not necessarily that, the parents didn't do their job. No, it might be that she was distorted by something, or saw something, or had a bad friend, or anything like that. So it could be the parents didn't give enough love, and especially the father. When girls tend to be sexually promiscuous, It's a lot of times because the father does not pay attention. The father should hug his daughter. The father should kiss his daughter, of course, when they're a bit younger. But girls should learn to understand that there is a man there, and how does it feel to receive love from a man who's their father. But it's a different kind of love. But that kind of satisfies that curiosity of having a man in your life. And your first man in a girl's life is her father, right? But of course, with limitations. But a lot of times, then it doesn't allow them to look for that manly, love outside of the family bond. You understand? Because it might be just attention that they want from men, but then the slippery slope, it goes into sexuality, right? Which is totally unacceptable and not good. So, but at the same time, it could be that just they've watched something, someone exposed it to something, a friend showed them a porn or something like that, and that messed with their mind, and then they tried, and then someone offered them, and they're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then of course it's done. For a woman, if she loses her virginity, that's it. For a man, you don't know, you cannot even tell. But for a woman, if she loses her virginity, then that is a different story, right? It is a problematic issue for her future. But again, damage control, right? You have to understand, assess the situation, don't overreact, have a talk, offer support, because this person might have been taken advantage of, might have been vulnerable. Your daughter might have been tricked into this. She didn't want to. So if you're going to push her away, guess what's going to happen? If you're going to fight with her, attack her, punish her, guess what will happen? She'll go back to that, because that's where she receives support. That's where she receives emotional support. And now her own family is judging her, attacking her, so that support is taken away. That offered support, even though it's abusive, even though it's haram, but that offers emotional support, so they will go towards that side. Okay? So talk, understand, tell them it's okay, Allah forgives, let's keep it close, don't disclose your sins. Big warning here, there's a difference between disclosing your sins and actually taking action with regards to a case of rape or of promiscuity. And what I mean by that, a lot of times, because of the culture, we tend to ignore the calls of our girls where they have been abused or sexually molested. And usually the mothers and the fathers don't shut up, don't tell anyone. And instead of them taking initiative and going and dealing with this, reporting this, threatening the person who's done that, so they know this is not acceptable, the person will do it again. Because they know nothing happened to me. I did whatever I had to do. That's it, I'm done. No, we should always take these things very, very seriously as parents. Right? Don't take law into your own hands, but you should verbally let the people know that I know, and this is not allowed, and I will complain, I'll make a case, I'll sue you, I'll do something, because that shows, number one, to your daughter or your son that you are there to protect them. Number two, it shows to the perpetrator, the other side, that he is not okay, and we don't accept this kind of activity, this kind of behavior. If you don't take any action, you don't care about it, your daughter will see that my father or my mother have failed to protect me. And they will give in to the victim, because they'll feel sometimes, that this is the way it is. They'll blame themselves. They'll feel like they're neglected, like they're not loved. And they're going to keep looking for that affirmation of love and acceptance. And it might be with the wrong people. Okay? So discussion, understanding, not blaming, trying to fix, tawbah, spiritual connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is in the fabric of everything that we do, every action that we take, it has to lead back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every time, any kind of crisis, we need to always throw in the main and most important point, that it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought you to this point for you to return to Him. I will help you. We will do whatever it takes, but in the end, you have to seek help from your Lord. Because these cases can be a means for a person to find hidayah. How many of us have suffered or have done something wrong and something has happened, but these were a means for us to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, isn't it? Right? So always you have to bring in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the equation. It has to be part of what we do, so that the child understands Islamic. This is something that is spiritual. You have to come back to Allah. Being in the protection of Allah is half of the solutions to your problems, right? So never leave Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet out of this. Don't try to solve. You can never solve the problems without Allah and Islam and the Prophet in the picture. You have to. And it brings, if you see, subhanAllah, hospitals and different abuse centers where people are abused, they always have religious counseling. Even if someone is not even Christian or whatever, they're always going to have someone there, either denomination or non-denomination, to talk. Why? Because the human being, when they're suffering, they need some spiritual strength and uplifting. Just by talking to someone who reminds them of Allah, who reminds them of God, this will make a huge difference. And this is the time when someone is very receptive, someone is very, very weak but receptive in trying to get hidayah, right? It is in the difficult times where we remember God, isn't it? But if there's no one there, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, if there's no one there to remind us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that will be filled with different things. That vacuum will be filled by many other different things. Okay? And support from the family, love. There has to be a lot of love and understanding. Imagine, when we learn the Asma al-Husna and the Sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? One of the first ones that we know is Allah, of course. Then we learn Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. And when we learn the Sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the scholars of Aqidah say, that we ourselves as human beings being created in the image of God, we basically have some of these attributes, but it's not Al-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Man, no, it's not like that. It's not the most. But we do have some mercy. We do have some love. We do have some care, compassion. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says, the scholars of Aqidah say that when two sifat are combined, then there's a new meaning that comes out of it. For example, وَهُوَ الْغَفُورُ الْوَدُودُ وَهُوَ الْغَفُورُ الْوَدُودُ. So they say, and He is the most forgiving, the most loving. So scholars say there's a new meaning that comes out of this combination of these two attributes, which is that He forgives us because He loves us. It's beautiful, right? He forgives us. وَهُوَ الْغَفُورُ الْوَدُودُ ذُو الْعَرْشِ الْمَجِيدُ فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. Right? So He forgives us because He loves us, right? So we human beings have to understand that Allah forgives us for so many sins. If He was to expose us by the things that we do, and we do a lot, so from this morning till today, we probably committed a lot of sins. We lied, we did certain things, maybe we looked at something that was not correct, maybe we went outside, I don't know. There's a lot of sins that we could have done. But Allah always protects us, guards us, and forgives us. But also it teaches us on how to deal with others. And that's why when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, when the issue of Aisha radiallahu anha happened, the fitna, right? There was one person that he used to give money to, and he said, I will not give anymore, right? And Allah revealed that, do you not wish that Allah would have forgiven you, basically? And subhanAllah, it's like Allah is saying that be merciful, forgive people, right? Allah is shadidul iqab, He will punish people. But that is at the limit, at the top. That's when you're done, nothing else, right? But throughout life, there'll be many mistakes. People will commit mistakes. That's why we say, كُلُّ بَنِي آدَمْ خَطَّاء. Every son or daughter of Adam make mistakes. أخطاء usually is translated as a mistake or as something wrong. Okay, so the words for sins are so many: ذنوب, أخطاء, خطيئات, and many other things that Allah uses in the Quran, right? But everyone has a mistake. Allah teaches us to be merciful, contain it, inject some love in there, understanding, and give hope. Continue, because that girl has two options. She's either going to get pushed away from the family because of the shame and this and that, or she'll be embraced by the family and say, it's okay, don't worry, it's a mistake, let's make tawbah together, let's learn how to not do it again, we are here to offer you support and help. And you find that most of the time, that girl is not going to do it again. But if it's perpetual behavior like that, which happens sometimes 20, 30 years, someone will be involved in a sin. And then later on in their life, they give it up. You never know. That's why hope should never be lost. You never know when a person will change. But of course, this has ramifications on the family, and it's not that easy, right? So it depends. That person also has to understand what their actions, the consequences of their actions. But in general, this is the way you deal with that. Contain it, love, understanding, protection, and protection as in like you let people know that you're there to protect. And communication. And inshallah, usually this is all. Now, of course, people don't like this part, but I always encourage young people to get married. I know. A lot of your ears might have gone like this, and your eyebrows went up. But see, the reality is, look at what they're doing because they're not married. Why not allow them to be in halal? I'm not saying let's do it now, but I've been talking to people. I say let's propose a system where, the most important thing for us is Allah. Especially when you have something like that there was a sexual promiscuity case. Marriage is an option. Even amongst those two, get the families together. If you know who the boy is, get the families together and say, look, they might do it again. Let's be frank. Let's put aside culture. Let's put aside wrong expectation and look at it from Islamic perspective. They're at the age, there's desire, there's problems, they've already committed the sin. Let's find a way. I've always said to Western communities, alhamdulillah, sometimes the parents are wealthy, and just give them a room somewhere in your house, maybe a small apartment. I don't know. It's sometimes good even just be at the parents' house. It's okay. And do the nikah. Maybe they don't have to live in together yet. Maybe they can still live in with their parents. They're still studying. Do the nikah. Make it halal. Make it halal. Make it in a way that there's support. Offer support. Don't just leave him here. Go young married, you don't know what to do. No. The government should offer training, support, counseling. The problem is that our religious authorities are not usually, I'm not sure how it is here in Malaysia, but in other countries, they're not very well versed in counseling. Okay? They're not well versed. So it has to be, remember, we're going to go back to what? The global village. We all have to play our part. If this is a problem in our communities, and the whole community has to solve it, not just two parents. So the government has to provide certain support for young couples, for example. And this has happened, right? There was something called a Sanduq al-Zawaj in the Muslim countries, which was basically a waqf fund that was to help young people who were getting married. And in many countries still today, certain Arab countries, they are still encouraging people to get married young because they realize there was a problem. And they do provide a lot of support. For example, they would provide the land and a loan to build your house. And it's like a reverse interest loan. It doesn't increase, it decreases. So let's say you took a loan for 100,000 ringgits and 1 year has passed. They reduce that loan. And 2 years you haven't paid yet. They reduce the loan. 3, 4, 5 years, they reduce the loan. And sometimes Ramadan, the sheikhs, they will pay the whole loan as a good gesture from them to do sadaqah in Ramadan. They just say, okay, all the people from this company, 100 people have loan with this bank, and it's an Islamic loan with no interest. I'll pay this loan. Okay? So there are situations. We just need to study on how to do it. Because yes, I know it's a problem when young couples get married and they don't have experience and it ends up in divorce. But there are two things here that we need to understand. Because marriage is quite overrated today. There's two things here we have to understand. Number one is that divorce is halal. Okay, divorce is halal. It's not good. Some cite the hadith that it is, most hated thing to Allah, but it's halal. It's a weak hadith. But divorce is halal. Number two, zina is not. People are willing to allow zina for the sake of they're scared that if they get married too young, they will divorce. If they get married too young, it's halal. If they divorce, it's halal in the end. People say, yeah, but their lives is destroyed and this and that. We need to change our mentality. Right? We need to rewire, again, our village onto how we look at things. Right? Why do marriages fail? Where is the government's support in that? A lot of times marriages fails because of problems. Why there's problems? Well, a lot of times they're problems because of money, because of no support, because of, imbalances in rights and regulations. When there is support, you find that marriage divorce is reduced. SubhanAllah, if you think about it, if the financial case of a couple is good, the situation is good, a lot of the problems are reduced. If you think about it, even for yourself, most or some or many of the problems that you're having with your spouse, wife or husband, are financial. Misunderstanding, lack of money, that the man is not providing. Usually it's the sisters that I've been approached and contacted by, they are complaining that the husband is not providing nafaqah. Sometimes when I talk to the husband, I say, well, I don't have, I'm trying, but I don't have. So if there is some support system where money doesn't become an issue, obviously some of the problems are solved. That's not the only thing, no doubt. But again, I'm not saying I have the solution. I'm saying that people should look for a solution. Why? Because zina is not okay. And in any way, it will destroy life. But marriage is okay. And sometimes if things don't work out, divorce is also okay. It's not the best thing, but at least you did not commit zina. Because if you commit zina, your life is messed up. Again, let's put it together. Zina, life is messed up. Marriage, halal. Divorce, halal. But then maybe life will not be perfect, right? Because you're divorced and problems. But at least you didn't disobey Allah. Problem is, in our priorities, we don't care about disobeying Allah. We care about whether our life is okay or not, whether we're going to be together. And sometimes even that relationship is toxic. Sometimes even the one-to-one marriage with your husband and wife, sometimes even being cousins, close, family, everything. The problems are huge. Problems are huge. There's no other issues but huge problems. Right? So it's something we need to think about, because the fitrah cannot be destroyed, and it won't, and people will continue to have these illicit relationships. And as I said, girls usually suffer more. And as I said, we're much easier on the brothers. They get away with a lot more. Guys get away with a lot more. And in this case, when it's about rules and regulations, there's no difference. Sin is the same for a woman as it is for a man. You have to understand that. If a woman commits zina and a man commits zina, it is the same punishment. It is this not different. Oh, he's man, he gets a different punishment. Oh, she's woman, she gets a different punishment. No, it is the same punishment, right? Because in front of the sins, there's no discrimination here in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So it is a huge problem. We're facing this a lot. Sexual promiscuity is increasing because of social media influences, peer pressure, friends. Understand that a lot of your sons and daughters, one of the questions that I usually ask people that come to me is, what school do you go to? What kind of schools? I try to understand the dynamics of the social interactions. And a lot of times it is international schools, and I ask percentages, how much percentage Muslims, and usually it's like 6%, 10%, maximum 20. So you have around your children for about 8 hours a day, someone who doesn't believe that sex outside of marriage is haram. Someone who thinks it's cool, actually, and that you're a loser if you haven't done it, if you're a virgin, right? I mean, when I was in the West, by the time you were in grade 9 or 10, even by grade 9, yeah, if you're still a virgin by grade 9, you're a loser. I mean, I was coming from Romania, and I started grade 9 in Canada. And in my grade, there was about 3 girls that were pregnant, and they're younger than me. I was 13, they were probably 11 or 12, because the age difference is per grade is different. I was coming from a different system. So I was 13 in grade 9, and they were 12, or some of them 11. So it's a problem. I was like, whoa, I mean, forget about illicit sexual intercourse. It is about, they're already pregnant, and they were so proud, because it was like 1999, 98, 99, and they're gonna have like like the millennium baby, right? It was weird. But so these people are surrounding our kids on a regular day. They're talking to them, they're their friends, they're, have a lot more access to intimate discussions than us. So definitely there's going to be influence. Definitely there will be problems. Definitely, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. And that's why I ask percentages, because I want to know what percentage of your friends are Muslims. And subhanAllah, here in Malaysia, it seems that a lot of people have a lot of non-Muslim friends. And they say, what's the problem? Well, the Prophet said, Al-marru ala dini khalil, falyanzuru ahadukum man yukhal. That a person is on the faith of his friends. So be careful who you take as a friend. I try to apply in my counseling, in my understanding, my assessment of the situation, these principles that are laid out by the Prophet ﷺ in these ahadith and ayat. Because it's important, right? Allah says in the Quran clearly, don't take the non-Muslims as awliyas, confidants, as people are very close to you. They share everything. It's a wali. Allah is our wali. You just want to understand what is a wali. A protector, someone so close to you. But our children do. They take the non-Muslims and they talk, and then they start they start having a benchmark and compare. Oh, my parents are so strict because of Islam. Your parents are so cool. They allow you to do this, do that. Sometimes, subhanAllah, the parents of the non-Muslim will help the Muslim to lie and to escape from home and to make up excuses to go do this and go for a party or a date or anything like that. Sadly, because they look at the Muslims and say, oh my God, poor kid, he's suffering with his Muslim parents. It's so difficult. He should just go to a prom and just enjoy life, and let me help him, right? Parent calls, hello, my name is Samia. I'm calling for my daughter Amina. They should, yeah, don't worry, they're fine, they're studying. Meanwhile, the girls are in a party where maybe they might get raped, right? And the mother of the non-Muslim is covering it. It happens, brothers and sisters. It happens. Please be careful. It does happen. Okay, any questions with regards to mean girls and sexual promiscuity amongst girls? Any specific questions? Or do you want to say something or add something? As I see that it's already 3:36. So we got about 25 minutes. If there's anything before I move to the next point, do let me know, because let's talk about it right now. Let me see if there's any questions on the thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me take questions. 1 minute. All right. Let me see how to get to this so I can actually see it. All right. So let me go on to the questions. We have about 25 minutes. I want to make sure that everyone. Right. The greatest trick of the devil is to convince mankind that he does not exist. That's a great point. I think that's a great point. It's tougher. The only one who cares about Islam is the wife. Yeah. If it's only the wife who cares about the kids and Islam, then it's a problem, because it's very unbalanced. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that parents can do, is that one of them will help them to escape from the toughness and strictness of the other parent. So you find sometimes that mothers, because they understand their daughters, they allow them to escape. Like we shouldn't be speaking about our past, but when I grew up with Muslim, there was a lot of Muslim girls. And sometimes their moms would help them in Canada to date and stuff like that, just cover up for when the father comes and asks where the daughter is and stuff. And that's the worst thing you can ever do. That is the worst thing you can ever do. Or vice versa. Sometimes the father is helping the kids and doesn't care, and the mother is strict. Okay? I understand the importance of fighting shaitan, especially in marriage and parenting. It's just so tough when it's only the wife and trying hard for all this. How do I do? My husband doesn't care about this. I can't get him to be our imam. He's not practicing. That is a huge problem for the person who asked that question. If the husband is not being an imam, it means that he's failing at the duty that's been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he's not practicing, as if he is not praying, then it's even a bigger problem. It's even a bigger problem. So these kind of cases need counseling, because I'm so sorry to say this, sometimes a lot of these marriages end up breaking up because of this issue, because the people are not uniting on the most important thing that should unite them, which is Islam, and the mother is struggling to implement Islamic ruling in the house, and the imam of the house is not taking care, not being an imam, right? And that is a huge problem. It's a mess. And the guy needs to wake up. Someone needs to talk to him. And if he doesn't like it, someone needs to knock some sense into him. And I'm so sorry, because I see another question where it says that the Sharia courts don't do anything about it. In an Islamic country, the Sharia court has to interfere, especially if the husband does not pray and does not practice. I don't understand why they don't, because the case that I'm dealing with right now, the sister, one case of marriage, and the Sharia court did step in. And subhanAllah, this case came to me because of the series that I've been doing right now, but it was an issue of marital dissatisfaction, of the man not being able to hold his side of the bargain when it comes to pleasing the woman. It was an intimate thing. And the Sharia called the man, and it was a court case, and it ended up in divorce, subhanAllah, because it was becoming fitna. So it ended up in divorce. So I'm not sure why the Sharia court wouldn't interfere, especially if a man is not practicing. And that's the good thing about a Muslim country, that a woman can go to Sharia court, and a man as well can go to Sharia court to complain and to get the law to get involved. Because again, right, if someone takes the law into their own hands, they can have problems, they can be abused, there can be all kinds of issues. When the qadi or hakim, a arbitrary sticks, gets involved, and it's a different story. It is binding. They have to, it's enforced. But specifically here, if the guy doesn't practice, this is a big problem, and the Sharia court should interfere here. Right? So can someone maybe tell me, like, what's the issue with the Sharia courts? Because as I said, just today I was talking to someone, and they said that this is how they solved their problem. They went to Sharia courts. So I'm not sure what's the criteria for a case to be taken to the Sharia court and to be taken seriously. In the case that I was talking about today, the husband was not doing, he was not being intimate with the wife. Okay, he was not being intimate with the wife properly, and it was true. And she complained to the Sharia court, and the Sharia court called him and asked him questions and this and that. And he admitted, and in the end, it couldn't happen, and she couldn't. It was big fitna, and the marriage ended up in divorce. Alhamdulillah.
Sheikh?
Yes.
Where does a lady, a wife, draw the line between husband, what do you call this, divorce versus sabar and dua and that sort of thing?
Okay, good. That's a good question. Okay, so definitely the wife gets a huge amount of ajr for having sabr with a bad husband, and vice versa. Also the man, we have to, because sometimes we're just attacking the man, right? Also the man gets huge sabr for dealing with not a good wife, both sides. But it's not like fard to, it's a higher objective, a higher type of ajr. But if she doesn't attain it, she's not blameworthy. Like, she can wait, give excuses, wait. And in some cases, most of the women wait for years. Okay? At the point where a woman, her iman is being affected, I would say this is the breaking point, because Allah comes before your husband. I would say this is the limit. When she finds that her iman is affected and she's suffering now, her prayers, her trust in Allah, because of what's happening, then I would say this is a breaking point, right? So yes, she should have sabr. She gets a huge reward for having that sabr. And even though she might be suffering, subhanAllah, she might die, and time might come, life goes by fast, definitely Jannah will be her, because she had, and the Prophet mentioned that about a woman who's patient and so on. And the same with the husband. But if she doesn't, like, there's a certain limit, and then she just says, you know what, that's it. I can't anymore. I'm losing myself. I'm suffering. Then she basically, subhanAllah, again, going back to the case that I was talking about today, right now, about the sister. She's here, Malay sister in KL, and she went to the Sharia court. It's because she said that I can't anymore. Like, I'm suffering. I'm in fitna. Right? And my friend, she's saying, my friend is telling me, take a boyfriend. And her friend is taking a boyfriend, an Indian man, non-Muslim, who comes every day or every other day and just fulfills her duty, or her husband's duty, steps in her husband's shoes. And she said, it's okay, just don't break up your marriage, just do it like I do. She says, no way, I fear Allah So she went to Sharia court, explained the situation, this and that, and then Sharia called her husband, there was a case, and then the marriage was dissolved, right? So there's a limit. There should be a lot of sabr. I never advise people just, okay, some people just divorce, khalas. I don't like something, divorce. I'm not feeling a divorce. I don't like this, divorce. This is not divorce. Divorce is very simple, right? Even today, there's a huge issue with women just taking khula in the West, specifically in Australia. In Australia, we're faced with this issue where women today, westernized sisters from all over the world, Arabs, Muslims, who they're not satisfied with something, they just take khula. Divorce. No patience, no nothing. They sacrifice their family and just moving on. It's tough. But a woman should know her limit as well. There's a case, for example, where I was in Canada, one of very good friends of mine. It's about incompatibility in many things, and culture as well. And but it was too late that they divorced. They already had 4 kids, subhanAllah. And then the woman woke up that she's unfulfilled and unsatisfied, and that she wants to have another marriage, and divorced the man, took khula. And subhanAllah, she got sick with cancer and died within a few months after the divorce. Such a sad case, but kids and she died as a single person, single mother, sadly, and the father was left with the kids. And this was a case where the man was oppressed and the man was miskeen, and was a good man, but I don't know, there's incompatibility, I guess. I mean, she felt that it's not good, things are not good. Okay, so now Sharia courts are okay, yeah? Okay, so I heard with my own eyes in court when husband complained about wife committing zina. He had no evidence, but she did on him, so he also did zina. The judge said she should cook and smile for him so he won't cheat. And that's not a very qualified judge, is he? Because if he has evidence of zina, oh my God, man, that's like a big problem. So that's not, that's a concern. If you heard that with your own ears, that's a huge. But look at that. Both husband and wife committing zina. What kind of marriage is that? What kind of relationship is that? It's not good, is it? I don't know. Okay, can someone just clarify this? I don't know if the court is okay, but what I know, never side the women. So usually the courts don't side with the women. Is that what you're trying to say? Went to a couple imams about marital physical abuse and not salah, etc. They said just sabr, and that many don't salah, so don't complain. Wow. Are these like local imams, or? That's the wrong advice. And that's the problem with our imams, because they're not trained. They are not trained in this thing. They're not trained in counseling based on the Quran and Sunnah. They just say sabr. Sabr, yes, is important, but like think about it. The Prophet ﷺ had sabr, but then he had to make hijrah, right? He didn't just have sabr and stay in Mecca. Then he had to have sabr in Medina, but then he came back and conquered Mecca, right? So the Prophet ﷺ had sabr, a lot of sabr, but he also took action. Everything has a limit, right? Everything has a limit. Sabr is very important. It is one of the highest attributes that you can have. But sometimes you have to, there's a limit. There is a limit. Sharing some questions from some of the children in class, if you feel it's relevant to talk about. Oh, there's children in class. I didn't know about this. Sometimes pornography appears in YouTube or Google ads, and that picture sticks in my head. How do I dump the image in the bin? It's very difficult to dump that image in the bin because our brains are photographic, sorry. Our brains are photographic. It catches, and specifically that type of image. Our fitra reacts to sexual stimulation. Okay, this is how Allah created us. So when we see that, it records. And that is a foreign image. It's not someone like your wife or something. And that has a huge impact. It's very tough to put that in the bin. Very difficult. That's why I always have to tell people, be so careful, because one look, one thing can actually destroy you. So I don't have an answer for this question to put in the bin because it's almost impossible. But not looking at these things, for example, people are addicted to pornography. Studies show that there is a period of regeneration that takes sometimes 2 to 3 to 6 months. If someone not been exposed to porn at all, then their mind starts clearing up. Can Muslim girls live together like roommates, like friends around the age 13 to 20, something away from parents? No. 100% no. If they're not married, if they don't have a wali, if they don't have someone, no. 13 to 20, not doesn't matter, even if they're 30. If she's not married yet, you have to understand, fathers. If your daughter is 30 years old and she's not married, she's still your responsibility. You are still her wali. You understand? If your daughter is 40 years old and you're still alive, may Allah give you long life, she's still your responsibility if she's not married. If she's 50 and she's not married, she is your responsibility. If she's 35 and she gets divorced, she comes back to you as your responsibility. Please, fathers, understand this. Do not let your daughters to live away. Don't let them to have this Western mentality. I'm going to have roommates, go to boarding school. You don't send girls to boarding school. I'm so sorry. I don't agree with this in Malaysia. You do not send girls away by themselves to boarding schools. Guys can, because they're not like women. They are not restricted in terms of wali to travel, to do things and so on. This is the way Allah has made, because their makeup is different. And you can tell just one thing that I discussed right now. If a girl is taken advantage of and makes a mistake, the guy gets away easily, the girl can be destroyed forever. This girl here, 3 pregnancies, her life is destroyed, and the guys are nowhere to be found because they're losers. But they get away with it because they're guys. They're not going to carry a baby in their tummy. No one can catch them or something unless, police or this or that. But sometimes not even that. Do not allow girls to live together and to move away from them. Why do most parents say you're fine when 80% probably know you're falling into anxiety or depression? They shouldn't say that. They should face problems. A lot of parents try to sometimes ignore the signs of anxiety or depression. But you know that you're not fine, and parents should listen to their kids, should understand. And this goes to show that we really need to have more counseling, more ustads to have knowledge of counseling. And so one of the things that I was talking about, sexual promiscuity, mean girls, they do need, after they, like this, there's rape or there's a pregnancy or something, one of the things that parents can do, maybe that they cannot themselves do, is to take them to a good counselor, and a Muslim counselor, someone who understands from the deen perspective. Because sadly, again, a lot of the Muslims, parents will take their kids to non-Muslim counselors. And these guys will tell them all kinds of things. So we need more Muslim counselors who know how to advise them from Islamic perspective, with love, care, understanding, and so on, following the Sunnah, but advising them properly. Change is done through education. Any suggestion how to instigate change? Education. The only time you will get change, as it happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, with a culture and a generation that was very, very, ignorant. Jahiliyyah. It's called Jahiliyyah, right? It was through education. The Prophet educated this. Okay. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? How about son, Sheikh? It is on their parents as well to take care of them, even no. No. I hope that there's no guys in their 40s and they're still with their parents. No. That's why. Okay, marriage-wise, right? A woman gets married, her responsibility is to her husband, and she is under his protection. A guy gets married, his responsibility is to his wife and to his mother. You understand? And to his family. He still has responsibility to take care of them. So the son, as soon as, sadly, because we're living in this culture where guys are still kids at the age of 12, 13, 14, I'm sorry to say, but I was already working full-time at the age of 13. This is the reality. I had to. My parents divorced. We were just moved to Canada. I'm just turning 37 right now, alhamdulillah, but I've worked since the age of 13 full-time, through university, through school, through everything. And it was great for me because I became a man quite young and I was independent. And that's how a man should be usually. But we, including us parents, we have not set up life, education, the system for our children in such a way where they can actually become men, for our boys specifically. That's why I'm doing this Muslim Alpha Men project, because I believe that it's very important to reclaim our masculinity. Okay, and the West does it quite well. I'll tell you how. In the West, and that's why you see that there's more stronger. It's where, American army, American men are, very confident, very strong, because their system is like this. In the West, by the age of 13, 14, you have your social security number and you can work. You can work summer jobs. I'm not sure how it is here in Malaysia, but you'll find 95% of 14-year-olds will be working summer jobs and even part-time jobs during their school in Canada and US. This is like, you're talking about 20 years ago. For now, it's probably more. I've worked grade 9, 10, 11, 12, university. Every year, I had a full-time job and summer job. You can get your license at the age of 15, 16, driver's license. I was driving already in year 10. I had my own car. Yes, because I was working full-time, I had money, and I was able to buy my own car. And many of my colleagues the same. Independence is part that's taught by the system in the West. It teaches boys specifically to be very independent. So I was working, for example, in many jobs, odd jobs. And if you find, more guys were working in those jobs because, it's construction, delivering papers, cutting grass, mushroom farms, picking strawberries, pizza delivery, things like that, right? That you see in the movies. Mostly guys were working, in this kind of stuff. But it teaches men how to become stronger men. And it teaches these boys. So by the age of 14, 15, I was very independent. I had my own bank account. You can open up your own bank account at the age of 13, even before that. I've been struggling to open up a bank account. Oh my God. So anyway, I had my own bank account at the age of 13. I was working full time at the age of 13. I was making good money, actually, to think about it. And every year, and I was very independent. And that doesn't mean that I'm not with my family or I don't take care or they don't take care. It's not. But there's an independence that's being taught. And I would say that responsibility actually protected me. And for those who didn't work and didn't have that responsibility, they were messing around. But because I was busy, I was clear on what I wanted to do. Guidance counselors in my school started working with me from grade 9 to help me to understand, hey, from grade 9, they're meeting with me on a regular basis and asking me, what do I want to do? Showing me different universities, different programs. different things that I can do. And every year they're meeting with me, at least monthly, guiding me, showing me, and I had an objective. I was looking forward to something, and that protected me from a lot of things. In that sense, I believe the West is very good in that. And sadly, you go to Middle East, guys don't do anything. Their parents don't allow them to do anything till they are 20, 21, 25, finishing school, university. They have no experience. And by the time I graduated, man, my CV, if I lay down my CV with the kind of jobs and what I've done, just by the time I was 20, I mean, subhanAllah, you know, till today, people are struggling to find something to put on their CV, on their curriculum vitae or their resume. So yeah, I think that's something important. Okay, so trying to stop still. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of inappropriate things for children on movies and so on. See if you can add, I mean, there are still some beneficial things. So if there's any way to lock it down, I'm not sure. There's different accounts that you can set up. Okay, sometimes if you just cut everything out, people, you know, it's like there are beneficial things. TV is not haram. What's haram, it's what's on it, what's being put on it. But you need to know whether it's going to expose you to things that's going to corrupt your faith and so on, then definitely you have to do something about it. But if there's ways to restrict, and there are, I believe, certain ways and what's allowed, what's not allowed, and what's seen, then do it. You know what I mean? All right. So I'm not sure exactly which program you're talking about and so on, but I know that a lot of programs can have parental controls and stuff like that. Sometimes our children have good friends who are non-Muslims because according to them, their non-Muslim friends treat them better. Yeah, of course. But they should understand what's the priority. They should understand that it's not about that, what they treat you better or not. It's about, you know, who you can trust in the end. And even so, even if you have non-Muslim friends, but know the limits. Know the limits. That's fine. Yeah, you might be right that some non-Muslim friends will treat you better. But always know the limits, because you never know when that person is going to turn on you. You never know. How about mother to take care of her son more than his own husband? Her son is already 38, 33, and the reason she said is because they'll make dua when she dies. Is that acceptable? Okay, so if the sons are like 38, 33, and she takes more care than of her own husband, it's not good. Actually, it's a mistake that mothers do when they're baby, their sons. And it shows that the sons usually don't have responsibility. They're still baby. They turn out not good. They have issues. Sometimes you have to cut the umbilical cord. Some people wait for too long. That doesn't mean you don't have a relationship with them, they don't love them, and so on. No. But when you baby them and you take care of them so much and you neglect your husband, then you have done a big mistake. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Okay, inshallah. So tomorrow we will continue. There's still a lot of stuff, but I think it was a great session. There's a lot of things that we can still discuss. It's good that you guys are sending me questions so we can, like, I don't want to be to one way. So give me your feedback all the time. I want to get more into understanding the Sharia courts here in Malaysia and how it can mediate in cases with families and problems and disputes. And when should people go to Sharia courts? Counseling first, then Sharia courts, or how, you know, because it's important, inshallah. Okay, barakallahu fikum. May Allah bless all of you. Inshallah, we will see you tomorrow at the same time, okay? 2 p.m. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.